Welcome back to part 6 of this Flsun cube project. In this video we're going to be going from parallel dual lead screws to active dual lead screws. So the first thing we're going to be doing in this video is getting a measurement of our corners of our bed and then checking our lead screws, and this is where the misalignment is. As you can see, when we do a G29 we can see the bed isn't that greatly level. We'll get that into spec a little bit better later on. But the first thing we're going to need to do in doing our dual Z lead screws is to get the stepper driver into its home. And to do that, we need to get the cover off the main board that houses the fans. Top screw came off no problem. Bottom screw, some reason, decided to Loctite itself on there, so I had to grab the pliers to show its who's boss, and well, a little twisty, and well, it knew whose boss was. Pop that off, and then we get the cover off so we can then get the stepper driver and jumpers in to the main board. Now with the cover off and out of the way, we can get the shunts in place. With them in place, now we can get the DRV 8825 stepper drivers in place. The only thing I didn't do on camera was getting the V reference set for the stepper driver, or I should say stepper motor. But it was done and proper at 4.444 or something like that. Now with it in place, with its heat sink in, we can now get the cover back on, and that's really only thing we have to do hardware wise besides getting the stepper motors plugged in or unplugged from the parallel adapter to each stepper driver having its own home on the main board. As I was tightening up the nuts for the main board lid, I realized the Y-rod support brackets had a nasty crack in it. I checked the front ones just to make sure it was a crack and not just a molding line, and well, it is, unfortunately. So upgrades will be planned there now. So now moving into the main meat and potatoes, and that's upgrading the firmware on this printer. First we're going to grab the 1.9 firmware for comparison. Then we're going to grab a fresh copy of Marlin. Then we're going to open VS Studios and grab Compare It. And Compare It is going to allow us to compare the old document with the new one. Do a quick Google search online to see what Compare It does, but it's a very powerful little add-on in VS Code that really makes life easier when trying to convert a printer over to a newer version of Marlin that isn't released for it. There's not even a config for it. Once we had it all updated to the newest Marlin, send it up to the printer, and with it now updated, we know it will accept it. We'll now move on to enabling active dual Z lead screws, and I messed up here pretty hard here. So the rest of this you're going to be seeing is all wrong. The only thing you have to do in the current versions of Marlin to enable dual Z lead screws is all you have to do is tell it that you want to use second Z, tell it the stepper driver, and once you've done that, it will automatically configure it and know that it's going to use the extruder 1 stepper driver port as its second port for the Z. And well, you see here, I did finally get it. I hit my head against the wall for quite a few hours trying to figure out what I was doing wrong with that error. But like I said, all you have to do is change the stepper driver. That's it. Everything else in the I showed, you don't have to. And now we're going to be moving on to the big piece, is the active Z's. You just seen me enable Z stepper auto alignment, and what that's going to do is, like it sounds, it's going to allow us to align each of our Z stepper motors. And well, as you've seen, it failed. This board's been giving me a little bit of headaches on updating to it lately, so I don't know what's going on, but eventually I got it to load onto the board, and once that happened, it was time to give it a test to see if everything was going to work. And well, connect to the printer, that's a good sign. So the first thing we're going to do is send a G28 to see what homing looks like. Our carriage moves good. Oh, moved up, and then all of a sudden it started to go to the basement. And I was confused and dumbfounded on what in the world was happening. And then the inevitable sound. And I had to pull the power really quickly on that. So, gave up on that for a minute. Got it sooner or later, but that was a nuisance. Had to invert the Z's. And then moved on to the main test of doing the Z alignment. And while the first go did not go well, as you can see, it was cattywampus. So the fix to it was actually increasing the intervals. Instead of doing 5 or 10, it's actually better to do like 18 or 20 intervals. It might take a bit longer, but it's well worth it, because I was getting constant issues of the bed being off level, and that was because the intervals were too low. It needs to be able to send the bed out of level and then bring it back into level, which is so confusing at first, but once you get it, it's great. And well, you can see I was able to get this thing tuned pretty good. And now to test out all the little modifications I've done over the course of this video with what we tried last video. And well, I'll let you guys see what happens with this one. But that's all I have time for this week. Thanks guys for coming by and seeing what was done to the FL Sun Cube this time. Well, I got a little secret for you guys. Since you've been patient and watched to the end, there's big changes coming for this printer. Very big changes, thanks to my friend Corbin. Well, thanks again guys. Have a good one, and I'm signing out here. This is your friend Loose Nut Printing. Have a good one.